Hi there, beautiful souls. How are you today? So in this beautiful video, we wanted to talk about how can we create a new reality when we are still holding on to all of our old limiting beliefs. Now, this came about because of a beautiful comment I received on the YouTube channel. And this comment had to do with, I was sharing that I've tried all these different things. I tried drinking alcohol and I tried the smoking thing, and they just were things that didn't agree with me. And in a comment, all these judgments were coming up, about, if I'm such a spiritual person, why would I be doing those things? Was basically the gist of the comment. Now, the first thing that I wanted to say was that all of those things happened before my awakening. The smoking was 30 years ago, and I only did that for 4 years. And the drinking was 15 years ago, and I only did that for like 18 months. So I tried because everyone else around me was doing it. With both of those habits, with the smoking and with the drinking, I tried both times because all the beings around me were doing it. And I just felt really out of place. So I tried, I experienced those things. Now, what was coming up as I was reading the comment, for me, I was thinking, why are we more or less spiritual if we drink alcohol? Why are we more or less spiritual if we smoke cigarettes? Why are we less or more spiritual if we have addiction to anything? And this all comes down to our beliefs, our judgments, our thoughts around what spirituality looks like. Because here we're going back to the idea that to be spiritual, I need to shave off all my hair, put on an orange robe, and go sit on the top of a mountain and just be at complete peace with the world. Never have an angry thought ever again. This is what it is to be spiritual in many, many minds. And yet today, what I want to share is that I know many spiritually evolved beings that smoke cigarettes every day, that are alcoholics, they drink alcohol. It doesn't make you any more or any less spiritual because you have addictions or because you have habits or whatever it is you want to call those things. For a really long time, when people were drunk, I would just dismiss and not even listen to the information that was coming through from them. I saw them as less than. They're not in their right mind. They've been drinking, and now all of a sudden, everything that's coming out of their mouth, it's like it has no value because they're drunk. That was the view, my perspective of it. And yet out of those drunk moments, for me, have been revealed incredible, incredible information that led to my awakening, whether I wanted to hear that information or not. We have been drip-fed what spirituality looks like, what it looks like to be an awakened being. And none of those things, the more I look at it, the more I realize that none of it is that. None of it is that. Some spiritual beings go to great lengths to record themselves smoking cigars, to trigger others in their belief systems. How can we create anything new when we're still stuck on it needs to look this way? We're still stuck in these old beliefs, these limiting beliefs, that to be spiritual you need to look a certain way. And the other information that was coming through as I was processing all of that, because I received this huge download in that moment that I read that comment. I wasn't any less spiritual 30 years ago when I was smoking cigarettes than I am today. That was part of my human experience. And that is what my soul was here to do, to have this human experience. We seem to forget that this is what we're doing here. We're here to have this human experience, with or without the addictions. Your soul already mapped it out. If you were going to have an addiction, what does that feel like? You give your power over to this habit, whether it's the cigarettes, whether it's the alcohol, whether it's sex, whatever your addiction is. We give our power over to it. And then we have the experience of what it feels like. How does it make you feel smoking 2 packets of cigarettes a day? How does it make you feel drinking 2 bottles of wine every night? Or 3 bottles, or however much you need for your addiction. Addicts are no less spiritual than people that are not addicted to anything. They're not less spiritual. They're still here. We seem to forget that each and every one of us has a soul. And that soul has already mapped out what it wants to experience. And so when we judge that, oh, that was bad, or that, oh, that's wrong, that doesn't make you a good person. You know, it's funny because as I was thinking of it, I remembered back to the days when I first started to learn how to ride a motorbike. And at the time I was 38 years old. And I would go on my bike and, every so often there'd be these spots where all the motorbike riders that were on those special roads, because they're all twisty and, they're special just for riding. There were 2 main points where I'd stop every time. One was called Pie in the Sky, which we call the pits, because that's what the letters stand for. And the other was Mount White Cafe on our trip that we did every time we rode our bikes. And when you would stop at either of those, it would be full of bikes. It didn't matter what time of the day it was or what day it was in the week, because a lot of them were retired. And you would go there and you would see all these bikes piled up out the front, and all the bikers would be inside having a coffee or whatever it is that they were doing, and all catching up, chatting about their rides. And before I started all of that, I had this idea, this belief around motorbike riders, that they're covered in tattoos, they all smoke cigarettes, they're all alcoholics, they're all rough nuts. And then when I started riding motorbikes and I would stop off at these 2 points where they were all having their coffees or catching up, I discovered that it wasn't anything like that. Some of these riders were lawyers. One I discovered was a violin teacher. So at the time I was a piano teacher. It was like, oh my God, I'm not the only music teacher here. There were so many educated people. And yes, there were the ones all covered in tattoos. And what I discovered was that they were the nicest people. They would do anything for you. They completely shattered any beliefs I had about motorbike riders. Yes, there's the gangs, like we see in Wild Hogs, we love watching that movie with my husband and my daughter because it's so funny. Yes, there's the gangs, and maybe they have that attitude. Maybe they're big bullies, they're covered in tattoos and all that sort of thing. But what I discovered when I was riding, that they're very normal people that just love riding motorbikes. And many of them would do anything for you. When I first started riding, I think I was wearing jeans, sneakers. I'm trying to think back to very basic gear, because all I could afford at the time were the repayments for my new motorbike that I had just invested in, because my husband was already riding and he would be off every weekend on his bike. And I was like, oh, maybe I should try it. You know, I'd never done it before. I thought I'll give it a go. And if it's not for me, it's not for me. But I fell in love with it. And I think I'd been riding 2 weeks, not even. I think I'd just started. And we caught up. My husband, on all his trips, you know, he'd made friends with what was called the KSRC gang or group or whatever you want to call it. And it was just people that rode Kawasaki bikes. It was just a group for Kawasaki riders, right? And because he was on a Kawasaki, and for some reason, you know, when you get there, they're all like, oh, what are you riding? Oh, look at mine. And they're all comparing all the Kawasaki's, you know. And I'm sure the Yamaha riders do the same, and the Suzuki's and all the others, the Hondas. Mine was a Honda when I first started out. So I was kind of like not part of the group, but this was the other thing too. They still included me because I was his wife and he was part of the group now. And it was in that group that there was this gorgeous girl, and I won't name names, you know, it's just, but without knowing me, and she barely knew him, he'd been riding for a few months, but he used to ride as a kid. It's like he knew how to ride, you know. For me, this was a whole new experience. But when I got there, and I'd been learning for about 2 weeks, you know, and they saw me in the gear that I was in. I barely had a helmet, you know, that was it. And this girl just reached out to me and she said to me, look, I have this old jacket that I don't use anymore, this old motorbike jacket and boots. I think she asked me what size feet I had. She gave me the motorbike jacket, which is for extra protection in case you come off, for those of you who don't know. It's got all this extra padding inside. I got the jacket. She had a pair of pants that I could use at the time, boots and the gloves. Like, she gave me from the neck down everything I needed for protection. And I'd only been learning for 2 weeks. And my husband had only known them for about 6 months. He'd been going and meeting up with them every Sunday and, you know, making all these new connections up there because they had that in common, the Kawasaki's. But this girl didn't know me at all. She didn't know me. And she said, you can borrow these things until you can get your own. I mean, who does that with a stranger that they don't even know? You know? So this is the problem with perception. We have all these ideas that things are a certain way, and then comes reality, the truth of how it is. Every soul is here having an experience. Every single soul. Every person you look at, whether they're alcoholic, whether they're a sex addict, whether they're a drug addict, whatever it is that they're going through, their soul has chosen that path. They want to have that experience. And when you get this, when you understand it fully, there's no reason for judgment anymore. And there's no reason to treat them like they're less just because they're drunk or just because they're on drugs and they're on their high or on their buzz or whatever it is that they're going through. When you get this, all you see is spirit having a human experience, because that's what we all are. All of it, not just us as human beings, but all of this, the whole earth, all of it. Every plant, every insect, everything is spirit. Everything. There is no exception. It's all spirit. My beautiful beings. And spirit is having this gorgeous experience through us. Spirit doesn't judge. Oh, you're an alcoholic. This is a really crappy experience. Choose something else. Do something else. No. Spirit wants to know, what does this feel like? Because it's not just about getting drunk every night. What is that person going through within themselves that they feel they need this? This is where it all comes down to. What created that habit in the first place? There's always a story that leads to that. And then there's the experience that person is having. But in this video, what I wanted to bring through is that no one is less than or more than, spiritually or in any other way, than you just because they have habits that you don't have. And you are not less or more than anyone else because you're an alcoholic or because you're a drug addict or because you're a sex addict or whatever other thing you're going through. You are not less. You are spirit having an experience in human form. That is it. It is that simple. Spirit does not judge that it is bad, that it is wrong. Why are you doing this? No, spirit is just experiencing. And to spirit, it is all sacred. It is all perfect. It is all divine. To spirit. So when are we going to learn to see things this way? Rather than always jumping to judge. Always jumping to judge about everything. In every moment. And this is what was coming up at the beginning of this video. Our beliefs and our judgments have created our reality up until this point. We cannot create anything different, anything new, while we keep holding on to these judgments and these beliefs as this is the way it is. It can only be this way. As long as you keep seeing the world that way, you're just going to keep creating the same. You can't create anything different. This was something I was discussing with my daughter the other day. It was just, we were observing someone and we just found it so funny that every time we're talking to this person, all they do is focus on the problem. They talk about the problem, always the problem, of why they can't do something, of why something doesn't work, of how they can't, why they can't. All we hear is can't, can't, can't. The C-A-N-T word with the apostrophe. And each time we listen to them, I say to my daughter, but that would be so easy to do this in its place. And that would fix the problem. There, it's gone. But they just like focusing on the problem rather than, well, how can I change this so that I'm more comfortable? So I don't have to have this problem. What can I do? How can I make this better for myself? Because this is my life. This is my life. Your reality is created with your thoughts, your beliefs, your judgments, your feelings about it. And the stronger the feelings about it, the stronger you are keeping it in your reality. The more you're keeping it there. The more passionate you are about it. Even if it's something you hate. Hate is passion. It's a very passionate thing. It's the opposite of love. There's a lot of feeling that's going into that. A lot of energy. When you hate something. But you are here to have that experience. So when do we start to ask the question, what was my soul hoping to gain from this? What did it want to gain from this experience? Why am I having this experience? This is the question we should be looking at, not, oh, that person is not spiritual because they're an alcoholic, or that person isn't spiritual because they're a drug addict, or that person isn't spiritual because fill in the blanks. Your life is not about that person. Even if you're looking at your partner, your life is not about your partner. Your life is not about your children. It's not about your parents or your friends. Your life is about you and only you and your experiences. You can't experience something for someone else. That should be a huge indication to you that this life was never about anyone else. Otherwise, when your partner falls down and hurts themselves, you should be able to feel it. Your children, if they hurt themselves, you should be able to feel it because you came to feel for them. You came to live their life, not your life. So why is it that if your children are eating something, you can't taste it? Only they can. Unless you are eating the same food. This is your life, nobody else's. Your life. And all these judgments that we have about things are things that we have learned from the people around us when we were growing up. You're not born with these judgments. We're not born with how a spiritual person should look. We're not born with the idea that spiritual people can't charge for their services. They can't make money. That's not spiritual. Where did that come from? What's the history of that? Where did that even come from? Who decided that spiritual people are the only people on this planet that aren't allowed to earn money for their services? Who decided that is what I want to know. Where did that come from? Oh, in the next one, I've got a good one for you to really think about. All right, my beautiful beings. Love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.